So apparently my parents talk about a lot of heavy stuff on their podcast. Listen at your own discretion. Like, comment, subscribe, and share or whatever. Anyways, welcome to Sobriety.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. I'm Ryan. This is Jess. We are sober as fuck. And before we get to today's guest, I do want to remind everybody that you can find our podcast. It is on every platform out there. You can go to safpodcast.com to watch, listen, check out the resources we have there. New podcast coming soon.
Mm-hmm.
Please like, subscribe, share.
Your podcast.
Yes.
I'm not on it. This is a
podcast.
solo Ryan podcast.
Yes, the old gambling addiction podcast called The Last Bet will be coming out very soon.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I've been working on all the goodies today, actually.
Yep.
It's exciting.
Ready for it.
Yeah.
Speaking of exciting,
Uh-huh.
I have a new hip.
You do have a new hip.
I'm part robotic now.
You are. And your recovery has actually been easier, I think, than you thought it was going to be.
Yeah, I was scared to death, and within a week I was literally walking without cane, walker, or anything. It was quite amazing. So being a little, not 100% physically fit, but I'd say being fit really helped out, which was good. So there you go.
New hip and a new dog.
And a new dog.
That eats everything.
That's right. He is officially the new mascot of the podcast. I can't wait to have him on.
He can't be the mascot.
He will be soon.
if he's in here, first of all, he's a golden retriever puppy, so he's already over 20 pounds. And even if I were to sit him here, he would just jump up and try to eat the microphone.
You wouldn't eat the microphone, just be the wires.
Uh-huh.
I just want to chew them all up.
Oh my gosh, he's like
great.
Typical puppy. Like he lunges at you and bites.
Yeah.
Not like aggressively, but playfully. He doesn't realize how big he is.
Typical male.
And then we have a Shih Tzu who is like 4 or 5.
Yeah.
And he is very like alpha. Like he likes to bully Toby around, and he likes to be like the king of the castle.
Yes.
And Bodhi, the golden retriever, will try to play with him, and Benji just goes nuts. He looks like he's attacking him, but yet he doesn't bite him. And I get a little bit of satisfaction because I feel like Benji's getting knocked down a peg.
That's right. No longer.
Because he does it to Toby all the time. So I'm like,
there you go.
Karma's a bitch.
Getting it back. Yeah. Circle of life.
Yeah. But he sleeps through the night, and that's nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's real good. Just takes up a lot of the bed.
Yeah.
Going to take up a lot more pretty soon, I'm sure.
Yes, very much so.
Yes.
So you mentioned the website earlier, podcast on the website. Yep. You can also purchase all of our guests' books on our Amazon storefront, which is on the website, including our guest's new book today. She's a repeat offender here on.
She is a repeat offender.
Sober as fuck.
We actually met, today's guest is Jessica Guerrieri. We actually met her. She was on the show last year. We met her in Nashville for her first book, Between the Devil and the Deep Blue Sea,
which
when
is
she released
fantastic.
That, which Jessica absolutely
loved.
We met in a bottle shop there, which is really cool, called Killjoy. And she's actually going to be there here very soon on the 25th of July again. So if you want to come check her out, you can buy her book. She'll sign it for you, meet her. She is absolutely amazing.
Fantastic.
Her new book is called Both Can Be True. And we're going to catch up with her. We're going to talk about her new book and get all the details.
All the goodies.
Yes. Please welcome to the show once again, Jessica Guerrieri.
Hi,
Jessica.
Yay. Oh my gosh. What did you call me? A repeat offender? Yeah. I love it. That's the first time that's been said about me that I like it.
Isn't it great?
Yeah. I'm so
it's a term of endearment, really.
Yeah, truly. Well, I mean, we get to reclaim all recovery terms for our own when we have sobriety. So that's just what we get.
That's right. It's part of it.
Maybe if I ever write a book, that's what it'll be called. Repeat offender.
Repeat offender. Perfect. Yes. I'll whisper to my publisher.
I love it. Speaking of which, before we get into all the nuts and bolts of everything, tell us where we can find your book. I said we have it on our Amazon storefront, but your website, anywhere else people can find it.
Yes. So I'm always on Instagram at Jessica Guerrieri author. And also my website is jessicaguerreriauthor.com. And you can find events of where I'll be there. I also have my links to all the places you can support independent bookshops through bookshop.org. And that's how you buy online for my book, or you can do the usual places, Amazon. I also do a huge plug for the audio version of Both Can Be True and also Between the Devil and the Deep Blue Sea, because our narrators absolutely knocked it out of the park with this one. They made it into like a full immersive experience. There are 3 perspectives, and so it's told by 3 different women, one of which is Helen Laser, who a lot of people know, and also Rebecca Lohman, who read Yesteryear, which is like the book of the year right now, the hot topic. And then Mia Hutchinson Shaw, who also read for Between the Devil and the Deep Blue Sea. So if you're like me and you have no time to actually physically read a book anymore, I just have something in my ears all the time, and it's helpful when you have great narrators. So.
Oh yeah, I'm big on audiobook. I usually buy my books 3 different ways. I get it on my Kindle.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
I get it on my Kindle, and then I need a paperback because I love a paperback, and I need like evidence on my shelf of all the books I've read because, I like to see them up there too. And then I also have them on Audible because same thing, like I'll be in the car or I'll be cleaning or whatever, and I always have it in my ear. So, and audiobooks have become, they've always been popular, but I like how you said the immersive experience, like they're really like stepping up the game with those, like essentially like a movie in your ears. Like it's really cool.
The production value. And actually I was just in Chicago. I got to go to the American Library Association. They had their 150th conference. So there was 15,000 authors, librarians, booksellers, you name it. But I got to meet like a lot of my production team, including a woman named Sydney, who was the production person who I talked to in like a studio booth when I read my author's notes, which you should definitely listen to if you read my books. And I got to do it myself. And so it was so cool because I got to meet her in person and be like, oh my gosh, you're a real human. And it's so nice to meet you. And also thank you for being the like DJ for the audiobook world, because what a cool thing. And yeah, so she was great.
Yeah. And it makes reading more accessible too. Like people, like you said, either they don't have time or people who aren't really like, voracious readers. Audiobooks is really, really broaden that. And I think for some, it works better. And I think there was even, I keep saying I think so much. There was a Harvard study that showed that listening to something on audiobook versus reading is almost the same, the way that your brain comprehends the language and your reading comprehension. There was this big debate on, if you listen to an audiobook, does that mean you actually read the book? Right. Because we're all trying to be like elitist or what the fuck ever.
You can't see me rolling my eyes, but I'm rolling my eyes.
Right. I can see you rolling your eyes. I know.
More ways for people to complain about things. Okay.
It's awful.
Good for you.
I'm a big advocate for audiobooks. So totally. I love that you're doing that. I may listen to this one.
And this is all recovery related. Is one of the tricks that I tell people, because I'm 13 years sober now. When I was writing creatively and doing drugs for Between the Devil and the Deep Blue Sea, for a little bit of it before I actually got serious and sober again. I thought that I was this amazing writer when I was high or when I was drunk, and really go back and read it and be like, oh, wow, what just happened? And also that's not going to go anywhere. And somebody asked me in the creative space, okay, well, what do you do now to get in the zone? 'Cause you're not using substances. And I said, I listen to my favorite audiobooks, because it's like listening to another language and dialing into the cadence, the tone, the pacing. Whoever my favorite authors are, chances are they have an amazing narrator, and that's how I plug into that. So truly, whatever portions of the brain that it's accessing, to me, it's like this magical creative land. So, and I'm 100% sober when I'm doing it. So like sneak like thing for all those creatives out there, if they're looking for like how to tap into it without drugs or alcohol, there it is.
I love that. Yeah. And I mean, when I'm reading versus listening, I still get the visual, right? Like whatever I'm imagining, because that's my favorite part about books is when I read a
Right.
book, the world and the interaction and I mean just everything, it could be completely different than what you imagine, which that's amazing. Like that's the point of it as opposed to like a movie where everything is just given to you, right?
Totally.
But yeah, I actually may listen to this book on
Yes,
audiobook. You got me
yes.
all
Please do.
jazzed
I
up
mean,
about it.
well, first of all, please get all three versions, like you just
I
promised.
will.
Specifically because I have 3 kids that I want to go to college. So
There you go.
Done. See, and I bought the Between the Devil and the Deep Blue Sea. I bought it on paperback and I got it on my Kindle. So now I just need to download it on Audible.
Audio. And
So
yeah,
I have
yeah,
4
yes.
that I need to purchase.
Yeah, don't even
There we
show
go.
up to Nashville when I see you guys if you haven't done all those things and you have the
I
receipt.
won't.
You know
That's
what I
right.
mean? Like, you have
I'll
all
bring
that
my
Check 'em
Kindle. I'll
off.
bring proof. I will bring proof
You
receipts.
guys are
I
gonna have
love
some
it.
good tax write-offs for like my coming to see me and supporting. You're like a Jessica Guerrieri support
That's right.
system.
That's right.
I don't think that's involved in taxes yet, but you guys
Probably
should try.
not, but you know, I just feel like I'm like giving back to
That's
small
right.
business, right?
Well, I truly appreciate it. And, you know, I'm giving back to you by being here. And
That's
it's really
right.
just so
I
fun for
love
me.
it.
So look, we're all here in this together.
Of course we are. So tell us, without giving anything away, obviously, but tell us about your book, what prompted you to write it. I know it's very different than the first book. Like, what were you going through in life when you thought about it? Just sort of your direction.
Yeah, so it does have similar themes, and that's about, and it's a book where, you know, this time I got to be like, oh, I have a voice, and like it's a distinctive Jessica Guerrieri book, which like there's certain compliments after having a second book that's like, oh, you're an auto read for me is like one of the best compliments I could ever hear. Like, oh my gosh, you really like me. Like, you know, because everybody has those authors that they're like, yes, no matter what, I'm getting your books. So what I wanted to do this time is I love the idea of multiple narrators. Those are some of my favorite kinds of books to write. And when I originally wrote Between the Devil and the Deep Blue Sea, it was in 3 perspectives. And I wrote that way until we tried to sell it. And I continued to get the same feedback, which was there's one strongest voice, which was Leah's, which is the one that we ended up going with. And so this time around, I was like, okay, well, now I'm an expert, obviously, second book, you know, I just like
Like I
clearly
can do
all
what
the
I want
winning.
now.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Still don't know what I'm doing, but I was like, hey, I'm going to try multiple perspectives on this. And what was funny is my editor was like, yes, love the multiple perspectives. Originally, I wrote it in first person for all 3 perspectives. And then she was like, I'm going to go ahead and need you to write this in third person. Just go ahead and do that. And I was like, oh, okay. So just rewrite it again. Okay, great. The good news about this is it makes you really know your characters literally inside and out from the first person to the third person. And so besides that, I decided I really want to do an element of true crime in there. I don't want to write a thriller. I want it to be book club fiction. I want it to be controversial. I want people to have physical reactions to it and feel seen in it. But I would love to emphasize something that I think is really important, and it's all the ways that women can disappear in plain sight. And I mean that literally, and I mean that figuratively. And so that is what sort of became the basis of Both Can Be True.
That's amazing. So tell us a little bit about these 3 perspectives. I'm trying to ask questions without asking you to give too much away, because if you want to know everything, go buy the book.
Yes, no spoilers on any of this.
No spoilers.
Yes, no spoilers. So it's actually two perspectives, but there is a third, and you'll see why that is a spoiler. So I will not tell you any more than that. But it is about two sisters, and they have a traumatic childhood insofar as what's interesting about having a sister. Do either of you have sisters?
Yes,
he does. I am a sister, so there you go.
Okay. So the thing about childhood, and this it relates if you have siblings in general, like you can grow up in the same house, but have a very different childhood experience. And so when a local woman goes missing, who happens to be the sponsee of one of the sisters, Frankie, both sisters sort of come back together, and they have to sort of face the trauma of their childhood experience in order to sort of unpack like where this woman could be. And so it's got that like mysterious, I was like to say mysterical, is that a word?
Sure, it is now.
To it, but it is still a traditional book club in the sense of wanting people to discuss it. If you come into it thinking, I am going to write like Lisa Jewell or something, that's not it. Nope. It is more about the metaphorical sense of disappearance. And I got obsessed with true crime about 5 years ago. So I listened to all true crime podcasts. And so I was like, okay, I'm so tired of women being gaslit into being told like, oh, we're safe, everything's fine, you're overreacting. And then there's something very validating about listening to true crime, because it reinforces the idea that women actually aren't safe, that horrible things do continue to happen to us. That happened to me in my life, because this is based on my lived experience of surviving sexual assault. And so I wanted to help other women feel like less gaslit by that whole narrative that it's like, no, it's okay. You're fine. Sometimes it's not fine. And so that's why I wanted to explore it.
Mm-hmm. That is so true. You know, the hardest thing I'm having with my 15-year-old right now is and I don't want her to have any of those experiences, but in reality, maybe, on that spectrum, at some point something will happen, whether it be blatant sexual assault or just, trauma,
Discomfort, right? Somebody
non-consensual, whatever.
In
Exactly.
an uncomfortable situation, for sure.
She hasn't experienced any of that yet. So, you, which is great. Okay. I'm not saying like, oh, she needs to go through it so she knows. No. But, it's difficult because I'll tell her things like, she can't go to certain people's houses, or we had this conversation last night, and this is another controversial one, but babysitting. I'm really not keen on the idea of babysitting unless it's someone we really know. And even then, having the kids come to our house, which I understand the other parent may not feel comfortable with. She had asked if she could babysit, and I don't really know this family, and she was going to do it at their house. I was like, I just really don't feel comfortable with that. And she's like, Mom, oh my God, you're like being so like over dramatic. Nothing's going to happen. And it's difficult because we teach our daughters, our children in general, these things. And I see that innocence on her. Like, she's not gaslighting, but at the same time, that's not an experience she's had. Right. And so it's great that you have people like you who are writing these books and putting it out there, because we can talk to our kids. I'm sure your kids are probably the same way. Like, I can tell my daughter anything. She's like, okay, Mom, whatever, and we'll be like, that people like subscribe to our channel and like want to hear, like, I have people who reach out to me and they want my advice. Like, they actually want me to like help them.
Wisdom to offer, but I guess it's just not you at this particular.
She's like, why? What do you have to say?
Oh gosh, like what would you have to offer? Yeah, I relate to that so much. I'll have so many things happen where, I have to explain to my older girls now, or my older kids now, where it's just like, what line are you sharing where you're like, I'm going to give you an example of why I don't think it's a good idea and I don't feel comfortable. It's like, sleepovers and going to people's houses that I don't know are
Mm-hmm.
recipes for disaster. And I know
Agreed.
that because I lived that as a
Mm-hmm.
child growing up in the like late 90s and early 2000s of just a free for all of like, well, there's no real phones. I think you're going to be there. I'll check in with the parents, but I'm not really going to. And also, like, are they out of town? I have no idea. I'll say that they're not out of town. But I very much will just have to trust everyone. And it's like, looking back in hindsight, and I've had to have some pretty significant conversations with my parents, not in like a, you guys were awful raising me by any means, but just that the world wasn't as safe as you guys thought it was. And there were many things that happened as a result of that. And I will not repeat that with my own children. I would rather be the mean mom than something happen like what happened to me. So yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think what you write about in this book is so important. I love that it is like a literal disappearing and also a metaphorical disappearing, because women feel very invisible every day, but it's almost like emotional abuse in the sense that you can't see it. It's not tangible, right?
Right.
And it's not just like we get gaslit even by other women, like, oh
Yeah.
my gosh, what do you have to complain about? And that's the one that really gets me. I mean, it all gets me, but especially with other women. So yeah, I cannot wait to read your book. And I mean, just like with the first one, I mean, the topics that you touch on, you're so open and real and raw, and, you let it all hang out there. I mean, as I was reading your first book, I'm like, wow, she probably has like your husband like is amazing. I can tell just because of like the honesty. I mean,
Very
I mean,
supportive. Yeah. He's like,
it's
oh,
just like
cool. I'm glad you
mine. Yeah.
feel
Well, I
there.
mean, but there
Yes.
are a
I
lot
mean,
of men who feel very competitive. And I love that you're just like, you just put it out there and you talk about it. I love the bluntness of it.
yeah, supportive husbands literally are the best. I think making sure that because when I got into this, he's a very private person. He's an introvert and he comes by that super honestly, and I am the opposite. And I've had to have conversations with him of being like, okay, well, there are so many portions of both of my books that are auto fiction, that are literally like arguments that we've had, that I just type verbatim, when I was drinking. And that was in my first book. And I'm like, okay, are you comfortable with this? Because it's really opening the door. And this is what you guys do, where it's like, it's not a peek behind the curtain, because it's like, I literally just opened the whole door and here you go. And what he knows, and I know what you guys know, is that the only reason we do this is to make other people feel less alone in their
Right.
experience, because we felt so alone and isolated in our addiction. And so, because he sees the difference, and when I'm at events and he's there and people come up and he hears them say things to me, like, sharing their really vulnerable stories and, their rock bottoms. And he's like, I can't believe people talk to you that way. And he's like, I mean, I can, but at the same time, like, wow. And I was like, yeah, well, next time, you feel a little like, oh, wow, you really put that in your book. It's like, it's because vulnerability breeds vulnerability, right? Like, so like, that's the hope. And that is really helpful for him to sort of see it happen in real time of other people's experience with it. So I'm like, please, tell me if I go too
Right.
far. And thus far, we haven't gone too far. So
That's good.
Does he read your books?
yeah, so he read Between the Devil and the Deep Blue Sea when we actually did like a tour of Half Moon Bay with our girls, and did like, we went to the tree tunnel, we went to like all the places that really exist in the book and that I fell in love with when I was a kid. And that was really special. And he chose to read it then, which was really funny because I was like, oh, okay. And also it was like ready to be printed, and it was printed, but it was going to come out in a few months. And I was like, well, there's no changing it. So like I had given him plenty of time. And he's like, no, I trust you. I was like, okay, wow, that's a lot of trust. And then what's funny is, for Both Can Be True, I know he's listening to it on audiobook right now. He is like taking his time with it, and he didn't read it ahead of time in that way. And I think it's so interesting because I know it makes him nervous, like of how much I share, you know? But he's like, no, I totally trust you. He's like, I just have to be able to like be there with you as it's happening. And there's certain things, especially because like the first one, his mom had just passed away tragically. And so I do a lot of references to her in that one, and certain like wonderful things that she did, like make the pajamas like from scratch for all of the 13 grandkids. And like I do a lot of like homage to her. And he was like, that was really like wonderful to read, but like he's like, I have to kind of mentally prepare. So he's like,
Right.
I'm taking my time to like mentally prepare to see like what you've like thrown in the mix with this one. And I was like, that's fair.
And speaking of that, you know, go back to your first one till now, like what has been the biggest difference for you personally?
Yeah.
You know, going through that experience, you know, your first book's out. Now here you go with a follow-up. How's all that gone with you personally?
Yeah, the biggest difference this time is like, so the first one, it's like having kids, it's like you don't know what you don't know, right? And
Right.
so you're just like, okay, well, you kind of like laugh at yourself to be like, oh, I thought I knew, and nope, turns out I have no idea. So this one, I'm like leaning into that more of just like, okay, well, I don't know what any of this all means in terms of like I don't, the problem with being a person in recovery is that we have the built-in thought process where it's never enough, right? So it's like, oh, you know, 1,000 people bought my book. Okay, well, it needs to get to X, or it needs to do this. And so this time I've really tried to recognize my primary purpose, which is to like help spread the message of recovery. And that cannot be associated with like the business side of this. And I think so my new like philosophy in this round is truly focus on my primary purpose and stop with all of the madness that happens behind the scenes, because that can really eat you alive. The commentary, the, you know, sales numbers, all of it. And it's really mentally exhausting. And so I'm putting it out into the universe, not saying that I've done a great job with this, because I haven't. I've had some very public mental breakdowns on Instagram, but that is what the big difference is like recognizing, okay, the value in this is that I write fictional characters about real women that struggle with substance abuse. And I open the door to the opportunity for people to see themselves in a way that maybe they wouldn't be able to unless it was from the safety of a fictional character. And so I want to continue to do that, be it a New York Times bestseller or just be it a writer who gets a DM from someone who says, hey, I like feel seen by this. So that's the difference.
And I think that's what connects us so much too, is because we do that with our podcast, right? At first you're like, got to get this many followers, got to get this, got to get that. And we really are building something organically. Like I would rather have less followers and have like a smaller audience than to pay for this or pay for that and get overproduced. Because just like with your writing, I feel like when you get caught up on all of the numbers, it actually devalues your content. Like as a writer, it will change the way you write. And it's no longer Jessica
Yeah, it's like
no longer Jessica
you're writing
sound.
for somebody else and not yourself.
Yeah,
Truly.
it's like this
Truly.
overproduced, and same thing with the podcast is you lose who you are.
Right.
So I have a lot of admiration for that. And it's not perfect, right? Because on the other side of that, like you have to pay attention to book sales. We have to pay attention to followers.
Sure.
We have to
Yeah.
pay attention to
Yeah,
how
and
things are
to say
going.
that you don't and it doesn't matter is a lie, because
Yes, of course.
all these
Yeah.
things are businesses.
Yeah.
But you can also do it from the place, and what we know in recovery is like doing something from a place of genuine gratitude, as opposed to like, I have to be sober versus I get to be sober, is the difference. Like that is the difference between people who make it in recovery and people who don't. So like, I have to use that. Like, I don't have to write books. I get to write books. Like
That's right.
truly, like that's like a pinch me dream every single day. And so, yeah, so that's the difference, I think, this time.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I love your balance too. It's like you pay attention to the book sales and how the book is doing, of course, but you don't read the comments and you don't read the troll. You know what I mean? It's
Right.
this
Well, yeah.
balancing act.
Truly, truly, truly. And like you reach a point at this also, and I always share this, that people swear that first of all, you can't really hurt my feelings anymore. Like I've already said every negative thing about myself in active addiction that you could, like, you're a piece of shit. You shouldn't be here. You don't have talent. You don't have anything to offer. This is the negative self-talk that we have, like when we're in it, right? When we're in the shit. And it's like, we've overcome, we're constantly overcoming that, right? And so any sort of negative commentary or like stars on Goodreads or whatever it is, it's like that can't really penetrate me in the same way, because I've already lived in like the darkest part that you can ever live in. And so like holding that and recognizing that piece has been instrumental for me in order to be able to do this, because it is such a critical, like, and you guys know too, like in podcasts, it's everybody has an opinion and a thing they need to tell you that you could do better or that they didn't like, and you're like, when you were drinking, I know for me, criticism was like a trigger. I was like, wait a minute, you have something negative to say about me? Like, let me line up the shots right now. And it's like not existing in that space anymore, where it's just like, oh, like I value your feedback. Like, oh, okay, like great. Yeah. No, I don't plan on writing romance books anytime soon, but thank you for that suggestion.
Right. I mean, and also too, it's being okay with our content's not for everybody. If you listen to the podcast and you don't like it, that's totally fine. Yeah. I can recommend others, or you just don't have to listen to it. And it not in a sarcastic way, but in a real way. Same way as your books. Like if somebody reads it and it's like not my cup of tea, it's like that's okay.
Yeah. Also, like, why do you guys talk about recovery so much? Like, what the heck? Like, don't you guys have anything else? Like, why is this your whole personality? That's my favorite one. And because I'm so damn proud of it. And I made drinking my whole personality, and that was awful, right? Like, and so why wouldn't I make recovery part of it, especially in a culture that is centered around shame and hiding? So many women and men, as we know, are hiding in plain sight as they're suffering. So I'm like, yeah, I am really vocal about it. And like, will I always have a version of recovery in my books? Yes. The answer is yes. I always will, because I don't think there's enough representation of it. How often do you hear fiction characters that are sober, first of all? What about like sober and just like living, right? Like going to an event and ordering a drink that's not wine, right? And like not either making a big deal out of it, and just, it doesn't have to be the whole plot, right? But like people need that representation, especially early on. Because I was like, what do you do? Like, what do you toast with? Like, if I'm at a wedding, like, what the heck do I do? How embarrassing. And it's like, no, if you see it more places, it's like how smoking like now is like making a comeback in movies, but remember when it like completely went out
Oh,
of
yeah.
Oh
all
yeah.
movies? And it was like, yeah, we saw less people smoking on the street because of it. Imagine that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
What an idea.
because society is like, ew. And so people are like,
Yes.
ew. Yeah, I
Yes.
mean, and you're so right about that, because almost every book I've read this year so far has had some sort of like female turmoil where she's gone and gotten drunk, right?
Yes.
Like, oh my gosh, this horrible thing happened. I'm going to go to this party, or I'm going to go to this bar, and I need like all the drinks in the world, which,
Yes.
I'm not opposed to a story written like that. That's fine. But why can't we have an equal amount of stories that don't have that theme
Truly.
right
Well,
there,
and not
right?
just stories, but like every single miniseries show I've ever seen on
Right.
Netflix. I mean, and it started out with like Grey's Anatomy. Like it was like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
she drinks tequila when she's sad, and then she dances, and that's her thing. And it was like, yeah, that
Why
was
can't you
my
just
thing
dance?
too. And now I'm sober. Like, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what are the consequences of that? And you rarely see the full transition of what that actually looks like uh, in representation. And so I'm like, okay, well, who knows better than me? Like I know because I lived it. So
Mhm.
like I want to show that version of it. And that's what both can be true. The main character, Frankie, she has a sister, Mare, and Frankie has 10 years of sobriety. And she's like living her life as a sober person. And then she ends up getting triggered by something. And as you do in recovery, she decides to experiment with substances other than alcohol, which is exactly what I did about 6 years into my sobriety, where I was like, oh, okay, it's the pandemic. It's the end of the world. I have 3 young kids at home. Weed sounds like a great idea. Like it's not drinking. And so I live in California, and I would just do drive through like cannabis dispensaries
Mm-hmm.
in my minivan with like my kids in the car. And it was like, it's all legal. We all had our masks on. And I was like, now like thinking back on that, I'm like horrified by that even image,
The visual.
Mm-hmm.
the visual of it. Right. It also on my bumper sticker, it says like, I'm not like a regular mom. I'm a cool mom from Mean Girls.
Mean
Cause like,
Girls.
because I have a minivan, like why wouldn't I have that? And so it's just like, imagine that as like the cannabis drive through with like 3 kids, like all in car seats. Like, oh my God, I'm cringing so hard. But I was like, okay, well, I'll just try something else because I need to escape this hell that I'm in. And that's where I wanted to tell the story of how relapse in whatever form can also be part of recovery. Because you guys talk about all forms of addiction too. And you have a
Mm-hmm.
new podcast coming out about gambling addiction, which
Mhm.
all addictions are feeding the same monster. And
Oh, yeah.
until you address the monster, they're gonna come up in every single way you could possibly imagine.
Mm-hmm. For sure. That is so true. All under the same umbrella corporation. Um,
Mm-hmm.
you pretty much came out of your first book right into your second. Like they
Yeah,
came out pretty close together. Well, I say came
a
out, but I know
year. Yeah,
that,
they were exactly a year apart. Yeah.
Yeah.
right. Like I was going to say, I feel like we just saw you
It
like
was a
3 months
year.
ago. Yeah.
Yeah, like
Um,
truly, yes, a year. And I'm like, where does the time go, first of all? But so I got a 2-book deal with Harper Muse when I was signed
mhm.
with them in 2022 for my book deal. And then, or 2023, I don't know. It was like 3 years before the first one came out. And I kept telling people like, oh, it'll be out in 2025. And they're like, do you mean 2024? And I was like, no. I mean, 20, like, it takes a while.
Yeah.
And I very much, so this past year, it feels weird. It almost feels like I'm cheating on my first love of Between the Devil to be like, oh my gosh, like buy this book. But it's like, no, but I
Yeah.
like love my original partner. Like they're, so it's like to be having to like kind of pitch both, remember to incorporate both. I like very much feel like I'm in a throuple, and it's like, I can't favor one partner over the other, like one book over the other. But I still have to give attention to the new book because
Right.
that's what it is. But luckily, the themes again are interwoven. And so they just naturally go hand in hand. And what has been really cool is a lot of people have discovered both can be true. And then immediately after reading it, they're like, I didn't know you wrote another book.
That's right.
I'm going to go read it. And you're like, yes, please do that.
That's
Because
right.
otherwise books just sort of disappear and fall off the radar. And I always want to be relevant because I think this topic is always relevant.
Yeah.
And especially with like TikTok, like there are so many amazing books out there that go unnoticed. I'm always telling people like, you know, read the popular ones, read like the book of the year, whatever, that's fine. But don't always let that be the guide for what you read, right? Because those are picked for very specific reasons.
Yes.
And read by specific people and they're great, but so many books at like local bookshops are just like going and researching themes and seeing what is out there, because you're so right. I mean, they kind of go by the wayside. I mean, you get one kid on TikTok or Instagram and then a book blows up and you know, I'll read the popular ones too, but then I have my bookshelf and I go back and I'm like, gosh, I have so many amazing books. Why don't I just reread these? Or some of these I've never even read. What am I doing buying all these? Except for yours, of course. I will always buy your book.
Of course. Yeah. Obviously.
I mean, that's a given. Come on. But you're so right. And I like how they play on each other. I have such a dirty mind because when you were saying you were in a throuple, like I had so many disgusting like sex jokes that went through my head. I was like, I'm not going to say it.
Where are you going with that? No,
I don't know where I'm going with that. It's just my mind. It's just, I'm disgusting.
But you come by it honestly now, as opposed to, you know, my dirty drinking mind of like, now it's like everything is authentically, nope, this is like actually what I'm doing. It's actually funny. I said I'm not writing romance, which I'm not, but so this is me being a true alcoholic. So I like to like win at things, right? Because like I have to be the best, but only for myself, right? Not in competition with other people. But I also like to like prove like, oh, I can do this, right? So like I do that because I've gotten sober. I'm like, well, I can do anything. So it's like, I'll write a book, I'll have all these kids, I'll do all this stuff to my own detriment, right? But I was thinking about it and I was like, okay, so the business sense, like we were talking about before, of book sales and stuff right now, what is so hot, like for people and like buying, and what are the hottest genre for people to read? And what's interesting is, unfortunately, book club fiction, women's fiction, literary fiction is not at the top of the list, shockingly, because unless you are Oprah's book club or Jenna's book club, it typically goes sort of in smaller circles and whispered by word of mouth that way, like we said. But there are certain genres, and it's usually, right, like sex sells. And so it's either romantasy is like the big one, you know, commercial fiction, but with something that has that, you know, 50 Shades of Grey thing to it, right? You know, heated rivalry, all of this, right? So I was like, okay, well, I can beat this algorithm. So I was like, what if I just try writing that and see if I can write, like, smut is such a bad term, especially because I read it. So it's like,
that's what I call it.
I was waiting for that look. I've gotten quite into the smut fantasy stuff too.
Okay, so it's like eating junk food, right? Where it's just like it's serving its purpose. And some are written obviously better than others. But I, like when I was traveling, I've already written my third book. My third book is written. We're selling it. I'll tell you guys about it later. But I was like, I can't not be writing. And so I was on a plane and I was like, okay, I'm just going to try like writing smut essentially. And then I was like, is this the best place to like start writing smut? Like I literally had to like, I made my font like 7 size. And I was like, I can't even read this, but I was like, you know, the whole plane, everyone's in everyone's business, because planes, I feel like, are getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And so I was just like, well, whatever. And so I'm like making myself blush, and I'm just like, oh my God. And I'm like, could I actually do this? Cause like then everybody would read this. And I was like, well, we'll see. And so far it's been fun. So that's what I'm doing.
I mean,
That's cool.
I love how you call it junk food. It is. It's kind of like, like reality TV, because what it does is, I mean, when you read so many serious
Oh,
books,
you need
whether
a
they be
palate cleanser.
self-help or novels or whatever, you
Yep.
have to have something to break it up. And these, like, I don't like the word smut either, but I'm trying to reclaim it. These smut novels, they're quick, they're easy, they're fun, like they're just nothingness. But same, so I'll have them on my Kindle, and if I'm in
Yeah.
public, I'm like turning the brightness
Yeah,
down.
you're like, do.
Well,
I
I
remember
was
I think I read 50 Shades of Grey on our honeymoon or something like that. And I literally like had two books, like one, like my, obviously like my book, but then
One
the other one,
inside
like
the other.
inside, like truly like hidden. And first of all, now I'm just like, own it. Like, I
whatever.
don't care. Like what, all right. Also like chances are everybody already knows what it is. And also like, great, who cares? But it's one thing to like be reading it. It's another thing to be like writing it.
Oh, I can't imagine.
And just be like, that's going to be interesting.
That's right.
If that actually plays out. But when you said like dirty mind, I was like, oh man, I've recently been in that space, like really in that space. And it's interesting.
Some of them are like, I'm like, I'm not old enough to read this.
Well, they're like very, like some of them I have to like look up to be like, I don't even know what you're talking. Like, I don't even know what that is. And I'm like, wow, I never thought that would occur. Like, I know in like Heated Rivalry, I got all into the show, like obsessed.
I haven't watched it yet.
Oh God, it is so great. And I had already read the books. And so it was funny because there's like a scene that they have that like I genuinely didn't know what they were doing because they don't show everything, right? But I was like, I had to like, and then I went on Reddit and they're like, oh, that's, and they had a word for it and they explained it. And I was like, oh, and then I watched it again. I was like, oh, I guess that is what they're doing. And I was just like, the more you know, Rainbow, like the more you know. And I was just like, wow, see, learning stuff every day. Learning through reading. There we go.
I will say some of the smut that I've read, it really highlights women and consent and being in control, even if it's like very, I mean, there are some that are very like bondage, like, violent fantasy, but it's all consensual. And so I will say it's kind of opened my mind and brought up the fact that even with this smut, these women are consenting and and are very involved and in control of these sexual encounters. And I really like that, right? Because when I first started down this journey, I was like, this seems like we're kind of marginalizing women. I don't know how I feel about this, but the ones I've read so far have actually been very female led. And I will say, I really, really like that we're moving in that direction.
1,000%. And honestly, like to circle back to both can be true. So my books I always have trigger warnings in my books, and I talk about really heavy topics intentionally because I use it as sort of like a therapeutic tool for myself to work through like trauma and things that have really happened to me. And so, as I said, one of the trigger warnings for both can be true is sexual assault. And I decided to, in the book, and this really isn't a spoiler because sexual assault is, again, in the trigger warnings. One of the characters is triggered by a past memory of a sexual assault, and that sort of sends her down a path. And what I decided to do was actually write almost verbatim my experience of that. And I did this really intentionally because it was a way of me taking my power back and putting it out there in hopes that, again, more women will be vocal about it. More women will want to talk about it. The shame won't lie with women. It will lie with the offenders. And so I think there was something really empowering about doing that for me and very healing. And I think in reading, as we're saying, like romance books where the women, even if it's just a you know, especially if they're drinking, it's like, do I have your permission? Or like, put in that little comment or something that it's just normalizing consent in every sense of the word. Because that's what we have to do with our kids for everything. And it's like, I tell my children, like, nobody has permission to like give you a hug just like on a whim, right? Like we never did the, like, you have to hug the family members. It's like, that whole thing was really important to me. And it's like, you have that autonomy over your body in that way. And so, yeah, just all of that, any way that we can normalize it, slip it into literature, books, shows. And I will say, like, heated rivalry, especially, and even in the show, like, they call like one of the characters like the consent king, because like he literally like every step of the way is just like still okay, because he's like more experienced than the other one,
Right.
And it's just like, I mean, that's hot, right? Like, because it's like
consent is very sexy, yes,
right, like that, and that should be. And I want to teach them. And actually, I have a whole consent conversation between the mother and the daughter in my book for that reason. Because I had it with my 12-year-old recently, and it had nothing to do with actual sex, right? It was just you have autonomy over your own body and are allowed to do that.
But that bleeds down into when they become sexually active too, because it's anything.
Sexually active, so it's irrelevant.
Never. You're right. It's so they can help their friends when they become sexually active.
Yes,
right.
I totally think that the value in that, there's so much value to be had. Just any way that we can, putting those messaging in there, because as subtle as they are, they hold value, especially because this is how we're getting attention. And like, any way we can get attention that's not via Instagram or TikTok or any of that is like a win in my book, right? Like,
agreed.
Yeah,
totally.
Well, and speaking of a message, what is the one message that you're hoping your reader, listener really takes away from the new book, long after they've finished it?
Yeah, so the main messaging, and this is true in both of my books, while my books are heavy and dark, often they are hopeful. And that is my whole personality. If you say it's recovery, like my personality is sobriety, I like to say, like, it's a reflection of my journey, essentially, because it is hard and dark and traumatic. But my messages are so hopeful, because I am a success story of recovery. You guys are success stories of recovery. And like, people need that right now. And so ultimately, both can be true. What I want people to take away from it is, we have a lot of problems right now, obviously, in the world, and not a lot of solutions. But the number one solution that I've found and that I portray in this book is, there's hope through healing within community. And community can look like your found family. It can look like your actual family. It can look like your recovery community. It can look like an AA meeting. It can look like a women's group. It can look like a mom's group. But it's where you normalize an experience within a context of people who have gone through similar things. And then you lean on each other to get through that experience. A grief group, and any of those things. But that sense of community is our greatest hope, I think, at survival, at recovery, at all of the things that the messages that I try and get across in this book. The number one thing is hope through community.
I love that. So I'm going to kind of put you on the spot here because it just came to my mind. So I'm so sorry. But the first time we asked you to tell a funny old drinking story, but instead of doing that, can you read us a small passage from your new book? Maybe like one of your favorite pieces?
Yeah, my favorite, I already know. So
Perfect.
my
I
favorite
figured you
is
did.
actually, my favorite is actually the prologue. I think you'll see why. So yeah, here's my
Give us a
prologue.
little nugget.
There's more than one way for a woman to disappear. She can leave without packing a bag, slip out so quietly no one thinks to follow, or she can stay smiling, stay small, stay busy, stay married, and vanish anyway. She used to believe escape was a privilege, that only the selfish left, the ones who could afford to blow up their lives and start fresh in some coastal town, blending into the hum of tide and anonymity, until she learned the truth. Sometimes leaving isn't a decision at all. It's a final flickering instinct of a woman trying to stay alive, a quiet kind of survival. There is almost always a moment in time, a threshold where a decision must be made. And even if the world leans in, offering its polite suggestions, be good, be grateful, be fine, it's still hers to make alone. But there's a part of her, a soft animal part, that still wants to run, that wants to fade into the trees or the lakes or the arms of no one at all, to stop performing, to stop explaining, to stop. She begins to wonder how long it could be gone before anyone noticed. And she wasn't thinking about the version of herself who packed lunches and signed permission slips, who kept the calendar color-coded and the fridge full. She meant the real one, the one who had already been missing for a while now, because sometimes the body stays, but the woman is already gone.
Wow. That's amazing. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Okay. I have to go buy all 3 versions right now, immediately.
Yes, everyone, please go do that.
Yes.
And yes, if you do it on audiobook, Helen Laser is the first voice that you will hear, and she reads that prologue. And the first time I heard it read by her, I was actually in Mexico with all of my girlfriends, because we go every year for my sobriety anniversary in May.
Oh,
And
cool.
we all just like sat around and pressed play and like listened to it and her reading it. And I was just like, and this is recovery. Like, here it is. I'm
Very
surrounded by
awesome.
all of my best friends. None of our children are here. This is the 4th year we've gone. I'm in Mexico in paradise, and a like amazing narrator is reading my second book that is out in the world now. So here you go.
That
Well,
is awesome.
you deserve all of the wonderful things, and your book, including the audiobook, will be available on our Amazon storefront. But tell us one more time where they can buy it directly from you.
Yes. So if you go, I'm always on Instagram at Jessica Guerrieri Author, JessicaGuerrieriAuthor.com. There's all the links for how you can buy my books. Of course, Amazon. If you do Libro FM, which is the independent book version of Audible, it's how you support local bookstores, but it's called Libro FM. And of course, Audible, all the places. Also, I will tell people this, a little secret. If you go into any independent bookstore and you look for my books and you don't see them there, go up to the bookseller and say, could you please carry books by Jessica Guerrieri? And then they will. And you don't have to buy them. I mean, you could, that'd be great, but they will start carrying them in my store. And that's true in your library. That's true in your local favorite indie bookstore. And that is truly how book people like me become famous, because they don't automatically sell my books everywhere. You have to ask for it. And that's how it gets into more hands of readers. So the more you say my name, and retailers, also in libraries, request it, that makes a huge difference. So thank you.
We will definitely do that.
And when can we look forward to your 3rd book?
Okay, so the thing about the 3rd book, so I had a 2-book deal with Harper Muse, and I had a wonderful experience with them. They did some restructuring, and my editor went to the nonfiction side and broke my heart into a million pieces. And so with our 3rd book, I've decided my agent and I, we're taking it out into the big world again, which means I'm going on submission, essentially, where I have written the book, I have the proposal, and we are taking it on the road. and hopefully it'll get picked up. It is going to be a book, again, about recovery, but in this version, it is a single mom who has over 25 years of sobriety. She works in a sober living facility, and it's the one that she actually got sober in herself. She has a 12-year-old daughter, and it's just her and her daughter. And she starts to see all of the isms that are alive and well in addiction without her daughter even touching a drink or substances. And she starts to be curious if addiction is in fact hereditary, shouldn't recovery also be? And then, does she know too much? Is she projecting onto her daughter? You'd have to read it and find out. So it's called The Inheritance of Worry, and put all the voodoo out there that it gets picked up and sold, because
I'm sure it will.
Is going to be, I'm so proud of it.
I'll pay you right now for it.
I was going to say, like, every person I talk to, they're like, wait a minute, because we come by our addiction so honestly from genetics, right? Or however you want to put it. But I'm sure you see in your own child so many versions of red flags.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
That we had. And now we know. And yet, do we know too much? And so I was so curious to explore this idea as it manifests in my real life. And also, the truth is, addiction is not the worst thing that we could pass on to our kids.
Oh, 100%.
Because recovery exists. I wouldn't go back and change my path in any way, to be honest, as long as the path always leads me to recovery. So again, that's where the hope lies. So yeah, let's hope that it gets picked up, and I just get to keep doing this because I love it.
I love it.
I love
it's
it
awesome.
too. Well, we are big fans. We will be buying all of the books. I'll buy the new one from you right now and just wait a year or two for it to come out, whatever we need to do.
You can be one of my original beta readers, I promise.
Yes.
I need
and we're looking forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks in Nashville at Killjoy in a bottle shop. So if you happen to be in the area and you want to stop by and see Jessica, please do that. It's July 25th.
Yes. I would love to see you guys there.
Well, Jessica, thanks so much for joining us again. We appreciate it. Can't wait for round 3 when the next book comes out. We're looking forward to it.
Let's do it all again next year. It's going to take a few more years, though. Unfortunately,
I understand.
but it's good. We need, so many things in between, and we'll do that. But I'll be back.
Love it.
That's awesome, Jessica. Thank you so much.
Thanks for joining us, Jessica. We appreciate it.
You.
We'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
All right, bye-bye. If you love the podcast, which I know you do, please like, subscribe,
and hit that notification bell to get notified every time we post.
That's right. Dropping them, baby. Work.